In this video, I have explained regarding the speech signals, which is consisting of human speech and speech synthesis. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this video link with your friends, gain the knowledge and rule the world. Like the video, write the comments, share this video link with your friends, gain the knowledge and rule the world. Subscribe to this channel. Speech signals. Speech can be processed by humans as well as the machines, although it is a dominant form of communication of human beings. So we the human beings will be communicating with one another by using the speech, and it is the dominant form of communication. Dominant form of communication means there are number of ways to communicate among the human beings. Among them, the most widely used way of communication is the speech. The field of study of handling of a digitalized speech. The field of study of handling the digitalized speech is called as a digital speech processing. The field of study of the handling of a digitalized speech is called as a digital speech processing. Human speech. A speech is based on spoken languages, and each of the languages which be having an semantic content. You can consider any language: English, Kannada, Hindi, Telugu, Tamil, Japanese, French. All the languages will be having an semantic. Even if you consider a programming language, those also will be consisting of an semantic. So semantic is very important, based upon which a language will be spoken. Human beings will be using their speech organs, that is the mouth, vocal cord. So using those things, they will be speaking the language, and which we call them as an speech. And the human beings will be using those speech organs without the need to knowing the control the gesture of the sounds. That means we'll be talking every day and we never care about the generations of a sound which we'll be making, and we'll be not having a control on the generation of an sounds. That means without having the knowledge of the generation of an sounds, we will be speaking, and the speaking depends upon the individual human beings. Even the other species will also be having the capability of the speaking and communicating. For example, the bats will be using an acoustic signals to transmit the information. So this is the way of communication which is done by the bats. It means each of the human beings and each of the animals will be having their own way of communicating. Among them, the human beings will be using a speech, and it depends upon the language which they are going to speak, and each of the language will be an semantic. So semantic is nothing but which are the essential part for speaking, and which are the building blocks of an language. For example, in English, the alphabets and the verbs, sentences, nouns, these are the semantics. Similarly, the other languages will be having their own semantic. So speech depends upon the semantic, and it depends upon the language which you are going to speak, and that language semantic will be deciding the way of an speech. And all the human beings will be using their speech organs without the need of knowing control the gesture of the sounds. That it's without knowing they will be speaking. They will be not having the knowledge, or there is no need of knowing everything in detail regarding how the speech has to be done. Speech understanding. What actually the speech understanding means? The speech understanding means the efficient adaptation of a speakers and their speaking habits. The efficient adaptation of speakers and their speaking habit. Despite there are a large number of different dialogues as well as emotional pronunciations, we can understand each other's language. That means we the human beings is capable of understanding the various languages even though we don't have the perfect knowledge regarding that particular language. For example, you might not be knowing Hindi, but the person who is knowing Hindi but not knowing a Kannada, and you are knowing Kannada but not knowing Hindi. Even though that person who is speaking Hindi, when he communicates with you, you will be capable of understanding based upon the emotional pronunciations and the dialogues which will be made by that person. And it is possible because the adaptation of speakers and their speaking habits. That means you have been adopted to the person who has been speaking, the way of habits which he is going to do in his speaking. And this is possible because of the brain. The brain is capable of achieving a very good separation between speech and interference, the signals received by both the ears. That means we are able to understand the Hindi even though we don't know the language, and it is because of the capability of our brain. The brain is capable of achieving a very good separation between the speech and interference, and how it is going to perform that separation is it depends upon the signals which is received by both the ears. It is much more difficult for an human being to filter the signals which is received by only one ear. That means if you are both the ears not in a good condition, if only one ear is capable of receiving the signals and if the other ear is not working, then your brain is not capable of achieving a very good separation because it needs the signal to be received by both the ears. If it is received by only one ear, then the filtering of an signals will be an difficult, and the brain will be not capable of achieving a very good separation between the speech and the interference. The brain corrects speech recognition errors because it understands the content, the grammatical rules, and the phonetic as well as the lexical word forms. The speech, the brain corrects the speech recognition error because it is capable of understanding the content, the grammatical rules or the grammar rules, the phonetic and the lexical word forms. In detail, we will be studying regarding each of these things in the later classes. Speech signals have two important characteristics and that can be used by speech processing applications. One is a voiced speech signals, another one is the spectrum of some sounds. Voiced speech signals, these will be having an almost periodic structure over a certain time interval so that these signals remain quasi-stationary for about 30 milliseconds. When we speak about a voiced speech signal, we need to know about what is an voiced speech signal and unvoiced speech signal. So voiced speech signals are nothing but these are the signals which are produced when the vocal cords vibrate during the pronunciation of a phoneme, whereas the unvoiced signals do not entail the use of the vocal cords. That means the voiced speech signals will be using the vocal cords very more, and it depends upon the utterness of a person. That means how the person will be speaking and how he will be pronouncing, whereas the unvoiced sound signals will be not having any use of the vocal cords. That means more fluctuation in an vocal cord or more pressure has been created by an vocal cord will not be there, whereas the voiced speech signal will be having a more fluctuations or the frequency of speaking that particular word or the pronunciation of a word to talk will be taking the more pressure or the more care will be taken by the vocal cords. To understand it neatly, we can say in case of an voiced signals, they tend to be a louder like the vowels. For example, when we have been speaking E, E, I, U, O, right? But in case of an unvoiced signals, they tend to be more abrupt like the stop consonants such as P, T, K. Right? When we have been speaking the voiced signals, it will be an louder like the vowels, whereas when we have been speaking unvoiced signals, it will be having the lower sound like the consonants, which will be making them as an silent. Right? The voiced speech signals will be having the periodic structure, and which will be seen almost over a certain time interval, and these signals will remain quasi-stationary for about 30 milliseconds. These are the words where the vibration of an vocal cords is more important, whereas in case of an unvoiced signals, the vibration of an vocal cords will be less, or there will be no vibration of an vocal cords. We will be understanding when we speak about the phoneme. What actually the phoneme mean? The phoneme is nothing but a member of a set of a smallest units of a speech, and that serve to distinguish one utterance from another in a language or an dialogue. And it is the smallest meaningful linguistic unit but does not carry content. That means a phoneme is a member whose utterance will be varying from language to language and from person to person. That means it depends upon the way the vocal cord has been used and the vibration which has been made by a person of an vocal cord. Then the next characteristic that can be used by a speech processing application is the spectrum of sounds. The spectrum of some sounds. The spectrum of some sounds will be having a characteristic maxima that normally involve up to 5 frequencies, and these frequency maxima generated when speaking are called formants. What actually the formants mean? The formant is a characteristic component of the quality of an utterance. That means when we will be speaking, it depends upon how we are going to pronounce the particular word and in what way you are going to speak the word, how you are going to pronounce that one. Based upon the pronunciation, the frequency variation will be there. That frequency will be considered, and the maximum frequency which has been used for an sound to a lowest is considered as the spectrum of some sounds. Speech synthesis. Computers can translate an encoded description of a message into a speech, and this schema is called as a speech synthesis. Computers can translate an encoded description of a message into a speech, and this technique is known as a speech synthesis. A particular type of synthesis is a text-to-speech conversion. Today we have a number of commercial available apps which will be doing a fair quality of text-to-speech conversion. Text-to-speech conversion, and even a fair quality of text-to-speech software has been commercially available for various computers and workstations, and even in the mobiles we have a various kinds of apps which can do a fair quality of a conversion from text to speech. Although the speech pronounced by these apps or these kind of softwares will be having some lacks of naturalness. That means the text which has been converted into a speech by the software or by the apps will be having the will not be having the naturalness. That means the way how we speak will be different than how the speech has been obtained from a text to speech software. For example, we have an app called as a caller name announcer. A caller name announcer. Use that particular app on your mobile. That means go to a Google Play Store and search for caller name announcer. Caller name announcer. We have different types of apps for caller name announcer. Try with some 4 to 5 kind of apps which will be announcing the name of the caller, and then install it, and then call from another number to your mobile, and see that from another number which you are going to call, save that one with some name, and make a call from that number to your phone number in which a caller name announcer app has been installed. Then when the phone rings, it will be announcing the name of the caller, and you can observe the name which has been called by the caller announcer will be having a lack of naturalness. If that particular word is available in the dictionary, then it is going to announce it very clearly, and you will feel like it is a natural one. But if that particular word is not present in the dictionary, especially the name of an individual persons will not be present in a dictionary, so those names it will be speaking, that means the speech of that particular name will be in a different way, and that varies with the name which we are going to call. That means when we call, for example, Robert, whereas if it has been called by the app, it will be robot, like that it will be varying. That means it will be not having a naturalness. That means the speech which is made by the human is different than the speech which we are going to obtain by a machine, and that especially from text to speech. The conversion of the encoded description of a message into a speech is called as a speech synthesis. In case of an speech synthesis, that is converting an encoded description of a message into an speech, that is an example of an text to speech. Here, whatever the recognition will be done by the system or by the software which we have installed in your mobile or in the computers, or normally achieved by drawing the various comparisons. The speech recognition which it is going to do is achieved by drawing various comparisons with the current technology which is available in the world now. With a speaker dependent recognition, it can recognize approximately 25,000 words. With the current technology, a speaker dependent recognition, that means the software or the app which you are going to use, if that is capable of recognizing up to 25,000 words, if it is speaker dependent. That means if it is possible only if it is having all the speaker dependent voice already stored in that particular software. The speaker dependent, that means the way how the speaker will be speaking, those words will be stored in that particular software. Then based upon that one, it is possible for that particular software to speak approximately or recognize approximately 25,000 words. The problem in speech recognition affecting the recognition quality will be including dialogues, emotional pronunciations, environmental noise. As I told, the text to speech will be not having a naturalness as the speech which has been done by us. When we are going to speak, we'll be having a lot of variation in our speech. For example, when we want to ask something or when we are going to say something, it varies. When we want to ask something, we'll be speaking in a lower voice, please give me, like that. Whereas when we are saying something, hey, go there, hey, sit down. So here the voice variation will be there, the way of a dialogue will be changing, even the pronunciation will also be changing, and the emotional, that means the way how we will be speaking and how the body language of a speaker will be, those things will not be present in a speech which has been done by a computer or by an app, because that is just a text to speech, whereas the human beings, whatever the speech they are going to make, that will be having a dialogue, emotional pronunciation, emotional pronunciation, and environmental noise. Whereas these things will not be present with the speech recognition or a speech synthesis software. The speech synthesis software will not be having the naturalness, because the quality will be depending upon the speaker dependent or a speaker independent speech machine. Here, the probably even it takes some time before a considerable performance discrepancy between the human brain and a powerful computer will be bridged in order to improve speech recognition and speech generation. That means it may take even some years, so that whatever the discrepancy is there between the human brain and the powerful computer, those bridge will be eliminated, so that the computer is also capable of improving the speech recognition and the speech generation equivalent to that of an human beings. In the future days it may come, because we already having robots, so those robots can do the work which can be done by the human beings. 95% of the works which can be done by the human beings can be done by the robots. So similarly, in the future, a very powerful computer might be built which is capable of making the improvisation in the speech recognition and making the text or a message to a speech to be the same as that of a natural one. That means it should consist of the dialogues, emotional pronunciations, environmental noise, and it should give the same appearance or a feel or the naturalness which we are going to get when we communicate with the another human being. This may not be a too far, because the works are going on in that way, so that the two the gap whatever is there between the human brain and the powerful computer, that particular gap will be reduced as soon as possible in the coming years. So we may see those kind of powerful computers in the near future. In this video, I have explained regarding speech signals. And like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this video link with your friends, gain the knowledge and rule the world.